Do you like Canon's color science? Well, a lot of people do, including myself, although I can't exactly give a specific reason why. I guess it's all subjective at the end of the day. But looking at these two videos side by side, which one do you prefer, A or B? One is from the Canon G7X Mark II, whereas the other one's from my old Fujifilm X-Pro1. Have you picked one? Good. Well, let me tell you, the one on the left is the Canon and the one on the right is the Fujifilm. You might be thinking they look very similar. That's because I cheated and I tried to match the color of the Fuji to the Canon's color science, which is what I want to talk about or demo in this video as a little experiment and challenge for myself. In case you're wondering, these are the settings I use for the cameras. On the Canon, I set the white balance to auto, ISO 125, picture profile to neutral, 1080p at 23.98 frames per second. The shutter was at 150 and at f4. I usually customize my settings more, but for this test, I wanted to keep the cameras to the original color as much as possible. On the Fuji side, there wasn't much settings at all, as this old X-Pro1 wasn't really geared towards videos when it was released back in 2012. All I was able to change was the picture profile, so I selected the Astia Soft 1080p 24 frames per second, auto white balance, and that's about it really. I couldn't change the shutter or dial in finer details such as the saturation or contrast, and the lens I used was the 35mm at f4. I have used many Canon cameras on my channel in the past, but I'm in the Fuji ecosystem at the moment for my photography work. FYI, which is the camera I'm using right now to film myself. However, whenever I look at the videos from the Canon, i.e. my G7X, I always get a different feel from it. Like I mentioned, I do prefer the Canon color over the Fuji, especially in videos. Although I'm thinking about going back to Canon in the near future, I'm still thinking about it. I wanted to try and see how close I can make my Fuji cameras to look like the Canon in the meantime. For this test, I'll be using the XRITE Color Checker Passport to help us nail those colors. All the professionals seem to use it. It's like pretty much the industry standard and swear by it. I must admit, when I first bought it, I didn't really had the need for it, but I wanted to find out myself what the fuss is all about since everyone always talks about it and recommends it. And I wanted to improve myself in making videos. And for the record, I think it's overpriced for what it is, and especially the build quality, which I will get into in more detail later in this video. Okay, let's jump into Final Cut and quickly show you what I did to match the colors as much as possible. Just a quick disclaimer, I'm not a pro at color grading at all. I'm still learning myself. That being the case, this isn't really a tutorial, just a quick overview. Plus, if I were to go over everything, this video would be way too long unless you do want to see it in a different video, an in-depth video, just let me know. For the Canon side on the left, I'm not going to do anything. I just imported it straight from the camera. All the work I'm going to do is on the Fuji side, which is going to be on the right here. To make my life easier, I first put them side by side so I can see both videos on a single scope. First, I tackled the exposure by masking out this section, which helps us to see better on the waveform. I did a slight adjustment by lowering the highlights and raising the shadow a little bit. Oddly enough though, I did notice that the shadows on the Fuji was beyond 0 IRE, which should be clipped, yet it managed to recover quite nicely when I lifted the shadow, even though I wasn't shooting in log or anything, which is very strange. Moving on, white balance. Both cameras were set to auto white balance and they were very similar. I used a single LED ring light to light the scene, but if we were super nitpicky, I can see the Fuji needed a tiny little bit of red and blue to match the Canon. Third, which is the bulk of the color correction, with the color chips masked out on both cameras, we can clearly see the difference on the vector scope. I sampled the color chips for hue followed by the saturation and tried to get the scopes to match as close as possible here, as you can see. That's the main adjustment done and it looks pretty good. However, this is the point that I realized the color checker can only go as far as helping us match the colors on two completely different cameras in this instance. And I'm not sure if this is the limitation on those color chips, but or my skills, probably that to be honest. But as you push the camera beyond the original color science, this might be the limitation. But if we look at the scopes in particular in this section where Mario is standing, the yellow, blue and red don't quite match up, even though the chips on the color checker, well, they did check out earlier. I isolated this area alone and added another adjustment layer on top, tackling these colors only. As you can see, the scopes match up and it does look closer on the screen. I'm hoping once it's uploaded on YouTube, you can still see the difference, between before and after. Remember kids, we can't trust our eyes. The scopes doesn't lie. Are we done? Well, no. By matching the colors on Mario, we have inadvertently messed up the skin tones and the fake IKEA grass in the scene. At this point, I like to say it's not fun shooting from two different camera systems. If this was a professional shoot, let's say, definitely try and shoot from the same cameras or at least from the same brand to say. Because as you can see, imagine doing this for every single shot to try and match the colors would be a lot of work. Okay, next I tackled the skin color. Again, a small tip, mask out the area you're working on so it's easier to see on the scope. I used a 3D color mask to select the skin tone, which helps us to isolate the skin area only without messing up the rest of the scene. And I lightly tweaked the hue and reduced the saturation to help us match the skin color between the two cameras, as you can see here. And finally, the cliche fake dead IKEA grass looked even more dead somehow now. So to fix this, I once again used the 3D color mask to isolate the green and tweak the hue and saturation and recover some of its green and returned it to its former glory. And voila, in 6 steps, we have made the Fuji X-Pro1 video look like it came from the Canon. Well, close enough. Let me know what you think, what else I can fix or do differently. And yeah, let me know if you think they do match up. To my naked eyes, they look pretty good, but on the scopes you can see they don't match completely. But to be honest, I can probably improve it a little bit more if I worked spent more time on it. But this few steps, especially since I'm still learning now, took me about an hour to do, which is definitely probably too long. I'm still learning, but yeah, I'm quite surprised by the results that they do look fairly similar. Okay, time for a conclusion. I wanted to find out if it's possible to make my Fuji cameras look like it came from a Canon, and I'm pleasantly surprised the answer is yes. To me at least, they look fairly similar. I also want to give my quick review on the Color Checker Passport. I've been using or learning to use it for about 7 months now, and it's definitely a useful tool for making videos if you care about colors. At first, I only used it to help me with exposures and the color chips, but eventually I started using the white balance area as well to set my custom white balance on before my shoots. And even after a while, I started to use the focus sight, the thingy, to make it easier to do manual focusing. I can now appreciate all the features of this tool, and I can safely say that I feel like I can't be without it now that I've gotten used to it. However, not all is good. Although it's almost indispensable now that I've used it more and more, it is super expensive. Like I get that most filming tools are pricey, but for something that's made out of plastic, I feel like it's disproportionately overpriced to its build quality. What I mean by that is, for example, you can almost buy 3 aperture M9 LEDs for the price of this, which sounds ridiculous, which is what I struggled with when I decided to buy this or not, because I wanted to buy more lights or other gears or just buy this single tool, but it costs so much. But I decided I wanted to brush up my editing skills and colors first before I bought more video gear. Oh, and also like the focus side here, it's just made out of a vinyl sticker, or just a sticker that appears to be peeling or bubbling on the edges. I have to keep like pressing it down every now and then. And that happened from day one since I bought it. So like I said, the quality is really questionable. The whole thing is plastic, like I said, including the hinge area, which is being worn down already, and it constantly leaves plastic shavings on the tiles that I have to like blow off. So yeah, definitely like falling apart already. For the price, it really should be better built, maybe like made out of metal or something. There is a new version out, but that's also made out of plastic, so no improvement on that area. Therefore, I feel like I love it, but also hate it at the same time. But unfortunately, there's like no alternative or something that's sort of industry standard that's also portable and useful. So I get it, but definitely I'm not happy with the price. Okay, that's it for today's video. I hope you found it useful or learned something. My name is Joe. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next one.